Hello, welcome back to the Radiant You podcast. We are dedicated to embracing change, reclaiming our joy, and living from the inside out. I'm Lissa Cole, and today's episode is wrapped in love and gratitude because I get to welcome one of the most radiant, courageous women I know, my best friend, Sally Sherwood. Sally is a nurse who has dedicated years, decades, to caring for others with deep compassion. She's a devoted wife, a proud mom, and a soon-to-be grandma. A thoughtful leader in her Soulful Courage Facebook group, and a beautiful friend. But what makes her radiance so profound is how she has continued to shine even through seasons of heartbreaking loss. Over the past 3 years, Sally has walked through the tender, sacred path of caregiving and grief, saying goodbye to both her in-laws and her own beloved mom and dad. The grace, strength, and presence she carried through that time are what radiance truly looks like. And in many ways, today's episode is a continuation of the tender themes we've been exploring: grief, transition, and the quiet ways that we stay rooted in self-love when the world is shifting beneath us. Sally, welcome. Welcome to the Radiant You. I am so excited. I know, me too. We're ready. Already. So what I want to begin with is just getting to the heart of it all, and that is the radiance and the self-love. So radiance is so, it has so many different meanings and so many different things. It just resembles different things for different people. How do you define it, and how have you nurtured it in your life?
I think it's just been ever changing. I'll probably refer to some notes here just so I want to pinpoint on some things. But first of all, thanks for having me. I'm trying to get here for a few years now.
Yes.
We've made it. And I think for what I'm learning is it's a combination of inner and outward. And I think for so long I was trying to be outward and not focusing on where the true, I never really thought of it as radiance, but more courage. And then just more of getting closer to God and what I needed to do for me rather than what I was doing for everybody else.
Absolutely.
And I think that was a huge shift for me, was recognizing that I needed that. I'll probably lose it here, but because it's finally like coming to the closure of the physical things. And so now it's leaving me with the spiritual aspect of it. So I just want to kind of reset. And what I didn't do before we started was set my intention, because that's been my life changing event in 2008, was really learning about intention. And the more I grew, the more I grew through everything. So a couple things that I wrote down, so I want to make sure is that I think for me, energy comes from within, and that's what I started to change. Was grounding myself more, finding ways to connect and just be real and authentic versus trying to make everything look perfect. Because
it's such an amazing way.
There is no perfection through loss, and I think it's just a process.
Absolutely.
Of evolving through everything. And I said, I wrote that because of the energy within, if you think of, for me, energy is fire. And when I think of the fire within us, as dim as it can get, it's still hot. And the light flickers. And you talked about that in one of your previous things that I caught my attention to, because I always felt like we always had that light that it may go dim, but I don't think it really, I think it gets stronger and it's brighter from within. And then it starts to evolve and come outward. And come out where, because then you start to break inwardly, and your heart starts to open. And so through those cracks, you shine brighter and you come out renewed, kind of refined like the diamond. And so the hotter it gets, the better you get. And for me, that's what I feel. And it's not from an ego point, but I feel like it's from a spiritual led. And
and I've seen that growth in you.
And I feel it. And I feel it even stronger after the loss of my mom, because then she was the closer of all of them. And it started fast and furious. But it was like, it was a 10-year process of losing all of them. And so watching them and caring for them all in their final stages was fascinating. It was fascinating because I got to see God work in them and through the family and where he showed up for me.
Absolutely.
When I needed him.
Absolutely.
And, the right people were my force and still are. Absolutely. So get those tissues. Yeah, so I just wrote so like energy comes from within, and the hotter it is, the brighter the shine.
Oh, I love that quote. Can you say that one more time?
Yeah.
The hotter it
is, the brighter the shine. And so it's like the hotter the pressure gets, so for those of you who might be going through the deepest sorrow of your life or the challenges, whether it's through loss, I mean, I think for me, I've been grieving for years. For many reasons. And I didn't realize it.
That's right.
But now I feel like I'm healing. And, through divorce back in 95 and caring for Brett as a single mom and finding Mark and just the evolution of what we built and how he has been my savior in many, many ways to help me see me and help me set boundaries and just learn that it's okay not to be perfect. And I've wrote it in here somewhere, but I've learned to turn my competition into compassion. So my competitive spirit is what drives me, but I don't feel like I have to win and be the best, because the best of everyone just rises. The how do you get what else can you do but climb, right? And to stay, just get out of the bottom.
Do you feel that there in your job, your current job, do you feel that there's any like competition for you there as well?
There was more inner. It's more inner. So for me, with my first job, so I've been a nurse for 37 years.
37 years.
Started out as med surge, and then I went to mental health for about a year and a half as I started going back to school. And then that took me to the ER because the supervisor would take me on rounds at night, and I fell in love with the morgue. I'm like, you go to the morgue, take me with you. So then she took me down to the ER, and I just saw that was like, oh, I got to go there. And so at 8 months, I'm pregnant with Brett. I went to the ER, and then the rest is kind of history, because from there, I just found a deep passion for, I found a drive.
Yes.
I found I really enjoyed learning. It was a fierce environment of nothing's the same. And that's me, like, there's no structure. Right. I don't like structure. And I don't like a lot of rules. I'll follow rules and I appreciate rules, but I like structure to some degree in my own way. So being creative to see how I want things to flow, whether it was the design of how I set up my room or whatever, and it was a place where I could have some structure in the ER, because there was no structure at home with just, having chaos. Organized chaos. Right. But anyway, I'm kind of going off track, but but I think from there, the spirit of the drive, learning as much as I can, saving people and hands in chest and all kinds of stuff, that it gave me the freedom to be courageous. And that's where I started to develop my courage, was through my divorce, was really finding my voice. And I think through for me, courage is really finding your authentic voice and then just developing it. And that's taken me 25, 30 years to develop from where I was to now. where I am.
That really kind of takes me into the next little section perfectly.
Yeah.
Great segue.
Yeah.
And that is courage and empowerment.
Yeah.
And really taking that and stepping into the radiance.
Yeah.
And so, how would you describe this? I think basically, how does courage intersect with radiance, and how has that truly shaped your journey? I mean, you've shared quite a bit, but it's taken a lot of just different steps through this journey to get to this courageous, soulful.
I think it's been through multiple failures that I have learned, instead of taking the failures as a true failure, where I did at the beginning and it was very personal for me to lose. But I really never lost, because I always gained so much wisdom from it. And more about where I wasn't setting boundaries for me, where I wasn't asking for help, where I wasn't, delegating more work, where I wasn't, feeling like I had to, always be the one to show up. I think I was on every freaking committee in the ER for a long time, but I think it was more, I was a sponge.
Absolutely.
And so
oh my gosh, yes.
Wanted to learn.
Yeah.
And so let me stay on track here with that question. So I wrote, courage allows you to rise up. So once I found my voice, I was able to step up. But I had to learn the most important. It took me just a lot of failures until we went and took our certification for dream coaching, where we learned about intention and truly about the state of being, in which and I teach that to my kids, like from a young age, of really focusing on a presence of being first.
Absolutely.
Whether you're going into a test or you're meeting someone for the first time.
Grounded.
Yeah. So you have that grounded, but just really a sense of body awareness.
Yes.
Feeling anxiety, recognizing where that is. And once I got that, I was able to rise up, step into a voice that I lost through my divorce, because I was told certain things. I had some domestic violence. And so I was shamed. And so I had to relearn. I had a lot of, what's it called? Imposter syndrome. Huge for a long time, because I was always told I wasn't good enough, and all those kinds of things. So
you really stepped into your shine.
Correct.
You really did. You found your voice. That courage helped you to find your voice, and then you really stepped into your shine. I love that.
Yeah.
And being able to recognize that that was the empowerment there for you.
Yeah, it feels good. And once you do that, just in small things, it's anything from stepping up and asking a question to stepping up and saying, I don't agree. So once I started to just take the state of being, it gave me a reason to have a conversation. It gave me more confidence to be able to say, no, I don't believe in that. I don't agree with you. Let's talk about it. And but the more I did that, the more I stumbled, which made me learn a better way and approach. And through that, I learned about energy and how I was approaching certain situations where I was nervous and fearful. I started to change that into faith. So I turned the fear into faith and going, I'm trusting that I'm here for a reason. And so I'm going to stand up and I'm going to ask for a raise, or I'm going to ask for a different department, or a better assignment, or something at home I needed. I'm going to ask for more help. I'm going to ask.
And you really set boundaries there.
Yeah.
Didn't you? That was very intentional. Very intentional.
That was, I consider, like, for me, a boundary isn't really a request. So for me, a boundary, to me, that was maybe a personal boundary, but not a boundary for someone else to respect. So if I want someone to respect a boundary for me, I'm learning to have a consequence. So if you treat me a certain way, then this is the way it is. But now I'm learning to have a voice with that, my behavior. So instead of just saying no, maybe physically, or not responding, now I'm speaking up and saying, I'm not going to do this until you do that. So when you start treating me like better, then I will respect and I will respond. Otherwise, I'm going to step back. And
absolutely, you're building trust there too. There has to be some trust before you can go forward.
Trust in me.
Trust in you and understanding that the other
doesn't matter
person,
what they do.
that's right. The other person
And
has nothing.
I want to trust me. So I had to really, and I'm still working on this, the emotional side of letting go.
Mm.
And that release of just letting someone else be who they need to be, but I need to be who I'm going to be. And if it doesn't feel right, I'm not going to keep pretending it's okay.
Yeah.
And I did that for a long time. And it stems back to, my teens where I was being pushed around, and even in elementary school, and, being bullied by girls and whatever. But I just, you carry that in. And until you say, no, that's not how I want to live my life. I want to be confident in who I am, and I want to be loving at the same time. So I sometimes in the beginning, my abruptness may have appeared abrupt to someone else, but to me, I had just chop it until I was comfortable to then gain that confidence to say, "What I'm chopping this up." And so
that's I often tell my clients though that you don't. A no is a no. No is a sentence.
It is.
And you don't have to add a story to it.
That is correct.
And so that has been something that you've learned along the way too, that you don't necessarily have to put your story to it.
No.
And I've seen you do that. And I'm like, woo! Empowerment and courage. That is just amazing right there.
It feels good. And it feels good to not have to, I'm recognizing now in my own thoughts and my words to not say something like, is it really important? Is what I'm going to say necessary? Is it necessary? Because and even with my clients now, they can behave the way they want, and it's up to them. I know what they've been told the consequences of their behavior. If they're not compliant, then they get their benefits. May be interrupted, not by me, but by the powers that be.
That's the structure.
It is the structure
that has to be put in place for this. So there are things that are very beneficial for structure, but you don't have to.
It's like organized structure. Let's just say that, right?
Yeah,
I do, because I know what I want and I know how I want things to be, but I don't like to, I don't get up at the same time every day and have those kinds of structured routines like that, but I know how I want my life to be.
Right.
I want to answer something else you asked me about the intersect with radiance and courage. I've learned to approach versus attack. I've traded those out. So courage allows me to rise up. It's helped me to be vulnerable, find truth, have more forgiveness for myself and others, giving space for people to be who they need to be, because the more I release the control of how I wanted things to go, the more room and space it gave for people to show up and be who they needed to be. So if I was trying to control a life and how that was supposed to be, it gave them permission to be now more open and vulnerable with me. It's amazing how that works,
isn't it?
Oh,
and I love that. Really adds to that word intersect. Because right there it tells us that there's that freedom there.
There is, and the more you do it, the more aware you become of how much control you had. We're
trying to hang on
to. And it was probably the only control I had during my transition from the divorce and moving on and living a new life and learning about, a whole new moving and a whole new area. And I had to learn to leave the old stories behind. And that took time, tell myself new stories, because I would, just repeat things. And I'm like, what is that doing for me? So I really started to recognize how it was impacting me physically. I actually had, a couple of medical events due to stress. One was Takotsubo syndrome, caused from stress, mimics a heart attack. And so it's not one, but it does everything like one. And that was a wake-up call for me in 2009 when I had, after the loss of my brother and transitioning and just trying to figure out what I needed in my life and how it happened. But because of learning about intention and then in learning to be aware, I felt off. And so I got medical help, and thank God, or it would have killed me. But so you have to learn to recognize the anxiety, the apprehension, and it's not a bad thing.
No, because your body is telling you something. It is. It's a response. It's telling you, okay, something's a little off. here? What is happening?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I've learned to, those are the things, some of the rituals I do in the morning is reset. So I reset before I get out of bed. I set my intention and I say gratitude, things I'm grateful for before I get up. And, Mel Robbins helped with a little bit of that, a lot of that, just reminding me to put those bookends in the day, of how you start your day and then patting yourself on the back at the end of the day and being grateful and gratitude of what went well and where were my learning lessons and what could I have done better? That's where I reevaluate in my heart and through my prayer is where could I have done better? What could I have said differently? What can I release? What went well and what can I do more of?
Absolutely. I love that. It's almost like your own assessment of the day. You evaluate your day and what can I learn? What can I take away from that? Yeah. That's powerful. Yeah. So I think that's really important. And it kind of goes into this next little question. What's one small yet powerful act of courage women can take daily to step into their fullest, most radiant selves? Yeah. What would be one of your recommendations?
Yeah, I think it's what I just said. So, and this is what I wrote was quiet reflection and seeking God first. Because when I would just get up out of bed and go and do and not set myself in a state of being, that's when I fell off track. And so I learned to recognize those days. And then I started to feel better. My days got longer because I was resting. I was getting better sleep. I, we're saying my prayers and setting intention, but shifting to gratitude and quiet reflection. So instead of feeling the fear of what my day was presenting, and I talked to you on many a day about oh my gosh, I'm just waking up with so much heaviness.
Yes.
Of what my day looked like, what I knew was going to happen, on top of what I didn't know was going to happen, and that did happen, unexpected. So really preparing myself for the unexpected and expect the unexpected was a lesson I learned kind of through my business with Mary Kay, was expect the unexpected and expect unexpected interruptions was kind of my learning back through those days that prepped me for going through what I needed to learn. So everything that I went through in my, from 20s and 30s and 40s prepared me for my 45 to 60 years old.
And it's so great, isn't it?
It is. And I'm so grateful for all of the failures.
Learning.
I'm grateful for the challenges. I'm grateful for the heartaches. I'm grateful for the blessings, because there are hidden blessings in every failure. And I just think that for me, I had to really, really seek them out some days when it was so heavy. So I had to go, well, what went well? And I learned to ask more questions. So that was
get curious.
Get curious. And being the nurse in me that voice started getting stronger for my parents and my experience to ask more questions, because people believe they're doctors and the doctors don't communicate. And so for those of you who are out there that might be going through, taking care of parents or sick family members, you trust that they're giving you the best information. And I truly believe they are, but they don't often communicate and collaborate with the other team members for what someone else might be doing in interacting. So through my case management services that I do now with, workers' comp and injuries, that gave me the insight I needed to ask those questions those just got stronger. My voice got stronger and it got more confident, and my voice lowered. My posture has changed. I feel slower. I feel, but faster.
Well, again, that's
more like a, I'm going to say a stallion, but I love that statement, but I just feel like, I can run wild and free, but with intention.
Yes.
And know with my mane in the air that don't mess with me, because I know what I'm talking about. I've got plenty to learn, and I don't know everything. And so I'm open to listening. I'm really working on my listening skills. Ask my husband.
also your vulnerability and your sharing
Yes.
and all of that for sure.
Absolutely.
So,
Let's see if I have everything in there.
okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. You've walked through so many tender transitions recently, from caring for your aging parents to becoming a soon-to-be grandmother. What has I know? Anyways, what has this season of change revealed to you about grief, love, and really letting go? What has that revealed to you?
That's a tough one because there's so much.
And you're still learning, aren't you?
I am still learning. But the thing that I came out with, no one gets out alive. We all are going to end. And I had to appreciate the end as much as I'm going to appreciate the new beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as we lose those that we love, God has blessed us and favored us
the whole entire time.
The whole time. The whole time.
Yes.
It's just so amazing. And that's where I just have faith that no matter what, it's for his purpose, and that there's something for us all to learn, so that when one day, when our time comes, then our purpose in heaven is huge. And I think until we really grasp that this isn't the big thing,
the best is yet to come.
God forbid,
The best is yet to come. And it is, that's what you and I believe to be true for all of us, for sure. So it really did, that season of change really did reveal a lot to you. But I love what you said, that you're still learning from that. There's still so much to just sit in.
And that goes with, it's a process, not a plan. I wrote. So there's no plan in grief. We have the data, we have the denial, but
it's not at all.
But I've gone through all those stages, and they just keep recycling.
It's not linear.
It is
never
is, and it never ends.
Right.
So I think grief is a gift, because
I believe that to be true.
It really shows how much you cared about someone. And I think if you didn't have grief, then you didn't really care as much as you were pretending to. And I think sometimes people struggle with that because maybe they want to care more and they can't, because maybe they were abused or had some hardships, and for many reasons. And it's okay that if you are having a struggle to not have grief as much as having grief. I think there's two avenues of grief, that maybe you're grieving that you're not grieving. And that you should be grieving. Absolutely. And I think for me, with there's been different things in my life that I struggled with. That it wasn't mainly with people, but maybe a loss of a job or something, and because I was attached, with the title to that job so much, that when I let go of it, I was still grieving letting go of what I thought that was supposed to look like. And so
for sure,
once I recognized that, then I was able to kind of process and move. And then, like you were talked about, I think it was the one from last week that you did for change, was really looking at what you're letting go, and then what you can look forward to. And I think the same thing as I am learning with the loss of my parents, that I was able to spend so much time with them that I still feel like I have them. Like I don't feel like I really lost them. And as I think I grieved more in getting rid of those items, because it was cathartic for me, because I was attached to watching them, use them. And the hardest thing that just recently for me to get rid of my dad's was his books. And my mom had a ton of gardening books, but my dad loved to read, and he was an avid reader, but I knew he'd be happy with what I did with them. I didn't just throw them away. I really was very intentional, again, on not only how I was being through the estate process, but who I gave them to. And the people that showed up for the estate sale were amazing. Like,
it was so touching.
It was so God-led.
And stories upon stories.
Yeah. And the hugs of the people and they hugged me, and can I hug you? And they just lost their family members or whoever. And so everybody that came there to shop and walked away, like I could feel my mom and dad like there. And certain things would happen, or a song would come on, and it's just amazing. And I looked at Pam and I was like, oh my gosh. She's like, I know. This is cool, And it was just
so precious.
It's
precious.
I wouldn't have given that up for the world. And
Okay.
I'm down to I just went out there today and took another load. And every time I go down to the friendly home to drop off, whether it's comforters or clothing, they're so grateful. And so the gratitude that I feel that I'm passing their belongings down to people that need it. And my dad and mom gave so much of themselves to people. The stories, that people still come up to me and talk about what an impact my parents were on them.
Legacy.
I was going to say, that you took the words out of my mouth, but I think that's part of the transition in the season of change that revealed to me is not only that life is short, but the legacy that we create and the bonds that we have and the connections that we build that are so important.
Yes.
And that those people that have a hard time or may be toxic or just working through their own shit, basically, they're in different learning stages than I'm at. And so I learn whether it's family or, a friend I haven't seen in a while, just wherever, or somebody I've just met, recognizing where they are in their own story and their journey and really pulling back my judgments. And not that I've ever been judgmental. I don't feel that, but internally, my own judgment to me. So it's not maybe a judgment on them, but it's a judgment on myself. Does it make sense? So I think we can project a judgment that might look like a judgment towards someone else, but the more I'm studying me, it's my judgment on me.
It is. It does reflect back.
It's me.
Mirror.
It's the mirror.
Yeah.
And so really going, why did I feel that? And if it's in my control in any way that I can fix me, then I work on that. And then give them the space to either show up or they don't show up. So I can't control if they call me or message me, but I can only control what I do. But I have to give that space. And I found myself the other day wanting to reach out to some people that I normally would do that. So nothing changes unless you change, right? And so I had to change. And that's something that I'm changing is I don't have to always fix.
No, and you're
you're
adjusting your expectations.
I am adjusting, yes. And I learned that about 3 years ago, but just recently again, I keep up-leveling lessons and going, but it's me. It's recognizing my habits of wanting to fix because I don't like a space of sadness. I don't like sadness especially with people you care about. And so if you have family that you struggle with, which I have, that I'm just being very honest, I have to give space because I have always reached out and kind of fixed it. And I have to give space for healing, not only for me, but for them. And everything, it's flowing over into my work so that I don't feel like I have to always fix and have that toxic energy. So for me, radiance is energy. And if your energy is static, that's what you're going to get back. So if you're giving out that static energy, when you start to calm, and so I think it's on the next page I write about it. So when we get to that page, I'll read my 4 words. But
I want to go back a little bit to what you just said about sadness.
Yeah.
It's real life. We experience that.
There's grief in that release.
Absolutely. I wanted you to share a little bit more about that.
Sure.
I got it, but I just wanted to.
Okay, so for me,
you said you don't like sadness. So is it a space of sadness?
A space of sadness where I want to hug someone, where they need space to just feel what they're feeling. Okay. So have you ever, yes, and I've done it, but I've learned that through training is to give people space to grieve. And if somebody's crying, give them the space to cry. give them the space to feel. I can touch and release. I don't need to, it's,
Well, I stay alongside people every day, day in and day out, and that is definitely one of the trainings that we have had to master, because there are so many times that you want to go over and give a hug, but I guess what I heard you say is that you don't like that space of sadness. Is that something that you've grown with, that now you can receive it? And you can allow them to be, if they're in that space of sadness, that's where you're finding you can pause and allow them to be whoever they need to be.
Well, I think if there's where there's anger towards me, I have sadness about it.
Oh,
let's just say that.
Absolutely.
So if someone's angry with me, I've always wanted to fix that. And even if the anger
it might not be a problem,
right?
But it's still you wanting to fix
whether it be through work or kids, or anybody, my family. I've never had my friends. I'm sure they have, but never that I felt sad about it. But where they didn't talk to me, or anything like that. So if somebody is separating themselves from me, I feel sadness. Let's just say that.
And so the disconnect. It's truly that disconnect.
It is a disconnect. And so because of energy, and it's truly about connection, that's what I recognized just in this week, was that I was sad because I was giving space. So it was huge. And I talked to Mark about it. I was like, I feel really good about this. I'd be proud because I'm giving space where I normally would try to fix it. And I
make it all better for everybody, because that's that compassionate caregiver, but that's innately in you. But you don't have to give your energy to that every time.
So I had to.
It's amazing.
But it wasn't so much about what the other person or persons or whoever group is doing. It was me recognize I felt sad. And I didn't like that, but I fell in love with it. I fell in love with
that's amazing.
Being able to feel that it's okay.
You were able to tell yourself it's okay to pause and be in this moment.
And shift to gratitude. And I shifted to gratitude. So gratitude is like my neutral position. So if I look like a shift in the cars, no matter what emotion people,
the end is gratitude for you. Neutral. That is powerful. That is so and very precious too, in my opinion, and full on radiant. Because to be in that moment of gratitude is stillness, peace. Just being, being.
And so
I love
that's like I just in the last 48 hours, like because it was so constant in my brain, the hurt. And it was sad. It made me sad because I don't like that. But I was like, this isn't about me. Like I really needed to reflect for me. And like in the car, like I so wanted to do certain things and I wanted to fix it. And what can I say? Things I would have normally done. I was just like, no, I need you. I looked up, I was driving and I'm like, God, I need you right now because I need you to come in right in this instant and send me some favor of peace. And he did. And that was the awareness that he gave me was, it was almost like he was saying, I want you to feel sad. It's important to feel that.
Not always fix it now.
And not always fix it, but also understand that this other person might be feeling the same way. And it's okay. Because we need to feel that. We need to really recognize that. And
remarkable.
It's just really cool. So it's like, I feel like a whole new person. Yeah. I could put my underwear on different.
It's just what clarity for you too in that moment in the last 40
And then I'm okay.
Yeah.
Because I didn't fix it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't do it.
It wasn't your responsibility to fix the other person.
Yes.
It is the responsibility for you to take care of you. And in that moment, you're like, God, please show me some favor right now, just so that I'm okay with this. And there was that instant.
It was
beautiful.
It was just like
beautiful.
It was just like yours. you're feeling sadness. That's what I heard. You're feeling, oh my gosh, I am sad. Because I wasn't mad. I wasn't, angry or irritated. It was just the relentless story in my brain about wanting to do certain things that I normally would have done in the past because it was a habit.
That's right.
But I have the enabler tendency, right? So because of being married previously to an alcoholic and an abuser, that I carry a lot of fix-it mentality to avoid conflict.
Yeah.
And so I was always de-escalating, and I'm a very good de-escalator. So I have very good skills with that, which I thought was going to carry me over. But then learning and going through the process of grief and really releasing what everybody else was doing and just focusing on my parents and my own immediate family, which was my kids and Mark, and letting everybody else just kind of fend for themselves because they're all adults.
That's right.
And not being responsible to always keeping everybody informed. I would eventually, but it was like I had to release so that I could protect my own heart and protect my physical being, because there was days where I was just beat down, because it got so heavy.
And that's kind of leading me again into the next question where it says, as a nurse and a coach, you've supported others through both endings and beginnings. Yeah. And so as you were saying that, supporting others, it hasn't been just your immediate family or your extended family. It has been, that's part of your job. That has been something that you have always, like I said earlier, that compassion, right? But how has that shaped your own understanding of that soulful courage? Yeah. And how do you practice that in your personal life?
Yeah, that's a good one. Let's see what I wrote. There's so many things that go through my head. So what I wrote was, I've become a better listener, which I talked about.
Yes.
Improved my process for clarity. So learning to pause. And clarity to identify my emotions and master my urges. So I think the biggest thing, so how has it shaped my understanding of soulful courage, was really, like I said before, finding my voice. But I believe the slowing down and learning self-discipline, but also self-awareness and understanding, and being the vulnerability by Brene Brown taught us that, like really understanding the vulnerability, because I always thought I was vulnerable, but I really wasn't. And I always stand in truth. And I think that's where I had so much restlessness for so long, was because I was standing in truth for me, but I was not protecting myself.
That's right.
With the armor. And so once I learned to pick up God's armor all the time, every day, 24/7, that I knew that he was with me, and that it wasn't an eek Zoom with Jesus. It was an all-day relationship and a courtship, and start really doing that courtship with him. It didn't mean that I was reading the Bible 24 hours a day or anything, but just really depending on him to carry me through the sand, right? So there was only one footprint for a long time. There was, but he allowed me to step down and walk side by side on many occasions. But I just feel like I'm getting a deeper understanding for my afterlife. Like truly, I really am.
That's so good.
And it goes deep, and this might be going off, what we were talking about, but I just think that allows more radiance for him to work through me and shine, so people can see him in a reflection of what I do.
And this has been evolving, and the blessing of being able to, that to me is also where you said, well, this might not be where we're going. We are going wherever God's going to lead us today in this conversation, and this is where it is for you. That Footprints in the Sand poem has always been one of just growth for me too, to recognize that it's okay to be carried.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Oh my gosh, I know it. That's what we do. Oh my God. But it is so okay to be carried, and you are radiant even being carried.
Yeah.
And that to me is,
you're letting him do the work, and
you shine through that.
I think that's one of the things that I let go of was, just allowing, and it's going to come out on the next page, but just the flow of my life. So one of the quotes and it's the visual I have more than a quote, and I wish I had it with me to show, but it shows a girl in the water, like under the water, floating and just literally limp, and God's hand coming down into the water, and he's not quite to her yet, but it's like hope floats, and it is hope. And it's just like you have to release because your body will rise. And when I live in that peace, I know when I'm out of alignment immediately, like I feel it, and I'm learning to like not be so aggressive or I don't know, just reactive. I don't think I'm an aggressive person, but I can be when I need to be, and I need to be firm. So I've learned to be more firm than aggressive. Unless somebody invests in my kids, and then watch them up here, for my parents, I had to become aggressive, more strongly assertive. Let's just say that I had to really become strongly assertive in their care, and say no, we're not doing that. I had to recognize also the passage of life and how it evolves, and recognize stages of dying, and really learn that I can't fix. It might look like a UTI, but their body's failing. And we just can't let it go. Like let them, if it's a raging UTI, I'm just saying, like all that fever and all that. But it's like, we're always trying to like figure it out. Being a nurse is like, well, why is that happening? Why is that happening? Seek and rescue. We talked about that years and years ago. Fix that. We can fix that. And, and just recognizing and looking back now, because there were so many similarities with all four parents and the stages that they went through, and the delirium and the forgetfulness and the wandering and the hallucinations. It's part of the dying process. And I think when we recognize that and so it just became about safety, comfort, and love. That was all I wanted for them all. Safety, but more so with Mom was because she lived with me, and us, Mark and I, and kids, and it was safety, comfort, love. I didn't need to fix everything. I got her help when she needed it, but there were some things that don't need fixing. I had to walk into her world rather than me trying to make it comfortable for me or anybody that wasn't comfortable with the delirium or all of that. Like, you can't fix that. You can't. No. You gotta let. I want to stop you there for a quick second, because you had to recognize to move into her space, her world, what she was experiencing. That right there is just, first of all, courageous and full on radiance, because you allowed her to be her in those moments. It was cool. And it was cool. It was so cool for me to be on the outside looking at that and watching you through that. It was, but I just want to say that again, pointing out the different areas where there has been truly radiance, that I have been able to look back and say, ooh, there and there. And that was really one of them where you really did move into what she needed, what her world was like in that moment. It wasn't her or you making her adjust to your world just because she was in your home. That wasn't it. No, it was very cool. It was, I wasn't giving that up for anything. So cool, so cool. Okay. Let me just make sure. What's the last thing there? So we basically talked about this, but I want to just say it. What does it mean to be radiant in seasons of deep care and quiet grief, when life doesn't look or feel vibrant, but your heart is wide open? So right there you answered that question. You answered that by sharing what went on with your mom in your home in those moments. And I think you're open to that. Yeah. And I think one of the things I wrote was kind of reflecting back to the comparison of the fire burning and the warm cold, is that, dimming my own light on purpose. Intentionally dimming your own light. Yes. So not having to be, you could. So like not doing my own podcast, not going on and doing anything. You needed to be there and fully present. It was okay. Mind. It was okay. It is okay. And I'm glad I did it, because trying to do it all so that you know, again, it was about worrying about what other people were expecting of me. And I just had to come to the conclusion, and you stepped up for me and went live on a glad many times, you know, to kind of carry over those gaps. But then it got to the point where I just needed to, and kind of where I'm at right now. And it's like, it's okay to take that space and the time, but just because you dim your light doesn't mean your light is out.
No way.
And it's
flickering.
And it is flickering.
Yeah.
I think that
we don't know how it's going to come back out, you know?
And it's okay. So I think in those moments when you go back to the question about how do you start your day, and really having those quiet moments intentionally, even if it's just a couple minutes, especially if you have kids that you have to get up, you know, and get ready during school times and stuff. But, you know, there's camps and there's things going on. I've been through those stages where summers are still as busy as a school year. But really making time for yourself first before you even sit up in bed, you know, or reach for your phone or whatever, just going, today's going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to get through this. So it's like, I'm okay. I am loved and God is with me. And so those are things that I would say every morning. I still do. And just say I'm grateful for this opportunity to do both. I'm grateful for this opportunity to be responsible. I am grateful for the load. I'm grateful
that you placed this in my life.
Yes. For me to change. For me to be more like him. Or, you know,
amen.
And it is. And it's just and be more of who I'm supposed to become. And when we do that and let go, and it's just so cool. And then my anxiety started to go away. You know, or it would come less frequently, or it wouldn't last. Now I still have moments, you know, and I still do, but I recognize it when it's happening, and I'm able to appreciate it, like for what it's teaching me, and whether it's a warning, or it's a signal to like do more of it, because it's pushing me to be better. So there's those two, anxieties of fear, but taking fear and recognizing, turning that into faith and gratitude, and then you can step into who you need to be. Right. And I've seen you flourish. I mean, look at this place. Come on. You know, let me see. Was that all I had in there? So I think the last thing I wrote was allow for space to not be everything to everyone. Yes. And so
I think that's so important for no matter what age you are, whether your kids are at home with you, whether your kids are grown, being able to take that space to do that and recognize that.
And, doing that. But again, purposeful dimming is important, because you might appear dimmer to other people, but you're still shining to yourself. Yeah. And I think that you sometimes
the ones you need to, right? The ones that you need to shine to, like you needed to shine to your mama. Yeah. You know, you needed to shine to your kids. Yeah. You know, in those moments, that is where, so you might be dim to others. Yeah. But I'm not. But you are not.
Oh, I know.
Oh my gosh, you are not. You know, that whole rise and shine, right? That is exactly. And I witnessed that, and it was a privilege to witness that.
Yeah. Somebody said to me just last week, wrote me something about, you know, you're sad, telling me like I'm sad. And I'm like, I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life. You just see me for what you are feeling. So, okay. So
right
on. Sadness. Oh my God. So what they're feeling is sadness because I'm not there, or they're sad maybe in their own personal life. So again, projection going on how they would feel. You know, and that's where kind of like where I recognized and learned this week about what I was feeling, and not putting that on for someone else. So me carrying that sadness, but I was like, thank you for caring about me.
Perfect.
So thank you for caring about me. I love that you reached out. Yeah. But I just want to tell you I'm the happiest I've been in a very long time. Yes. You know, to be fully present and being able to now come back out, you know, and be public, you know, more public with everything. But it's you know, so I couldn't carry that I put that luggage down. So I was like, I'm not carrying that.
And that was that person.
But there is a boundary of how I set my boundary of no, that's not what I'm feeling. Thank you for caring. I'm the happiest I've been. You know, and again, sandwiching it again for please continue to, you know, show up for me. Thank you for showing up for me. You know, and it's like, because it made me feel important that they did care enough. But again, I recognize them for who they were, their life stages too, you know, and so I'm like, it's okay. Do you need to talk, you know, or whatever? Yes. I don't need to fix it. But
but I'm here if you, you know, let's walk up with each other.
I mean, it was just like, I felt like realization. So there is a courageous moment of a confidence over time and time of having a voice, learning to say no. And I'm like, yeah, don't agree with that. You should be over here right now because I'm super happy. You know? You should see the weekend I just had. I had so much fun. Oh, and there's so much joy that I'm feeling because of everything. And some people will carry their grief for years and years and years, and that's all they know is the sadness part. And to me, I think watching other people, and this is just a whim thought, my friend Chris Lowe, and watching her lose her son and how she continues to shine. Oh, there's true radiance. There is true radiance. So if she's watching this, kudos to you because she's been a role model in a way for me to move through sadness through joy.
And she has, and I definitely be hearing this. She's been on my list. Definitely. Because she definitely has taken action steps. Yes, very. I mean, we don't see her behind the closed doors at all, but her action steps speak volumes to what she'd like to see happen in her life for her son's life. Yes, you know what I mean. Like that. That is
was a big journey.
Yes,
and it still is, but just full of energy and
oh my gosh,
she's always fun.
So let's move on to this next phase of, and let me just ask the question. With adult children stepping into marriage and parenthood, what wisdom or grounding mindset do you return to when life feels like it's moving faster? And my oldest grandson's 14, or going to be 14 next week. And so, boy, talk about moving faster. Yes. And then it's faster than our heart can even process. Yeah. You know, it is. And so I'm just wondering, how are you grounding yourself with that? And what's your mindset with that?
I think it's the same. Like it's the gratitude, but I wrote intention and courage. So for me, intention is like truth, intention, and heart. That's my triad. And I always, that's what I go back to is those three things. Cause it's like, okay, so if it's going, where's my truth today? What's most important? Where do I need to be? And I can release something. Sometimes it's work and sometimes I have to work and I can release some family obligations, but I can go back to that. So, I think learning to, make everyone feel important. That's always when they're in my space is to let them know I see them and I hear them as much as possible. And so those are some things, having a spiritual connection. I wrote that and so I had to seek the Holy Spirit's energy, and really learning about the Trinity and what the Holy Spirit does for me in a spiritual way during my day and really embracing that for me versus, and just really holding on to that energy of just truth. And
do you see it sometimes? Do you? Right. We both do, right? Yeah. But that is what if we can even leave that as a legacy, almost like you are important to me in that moment. But so is that tree. So is that just whatever
the appreciation
of
the simple things and really
really a hug from your grandbaby in a little while, right?
Yeah, like I wrote yesterday about joy and just, the butterflies, the whippoorwills in the forest at night. Did you know that means that they're protecting their territory? I just learned.
I did not know that. That is a cool thing.
Because they do it
they make that noise
for a short period of time. They're protecting their territory. And I thought, well, isn't that what we do? Like, don't we chirp? enough
boy,
to
did
just
sure.
to protect our territories when
Right.
we need to, like when we might feel threatened or there's. So I think maybe sometimes like it might be true, or we might step out and say something that I don't know. That's a whole other thought.
Yeah.
I want to stay here, but yeah.
Communication, right?
Here it is. Keep present. Don't get caught up in other people's expectations for me. So those are the things that I think with stepping into marriage and parenthood, and is to let them make mistakes. Let them know that I'm always available for grounding, wisdom, reflection. And what I found is when they're talking about things and they're processing it, I'm quiet.
Oh, it's such a great stage.
It is where I would have said, well, have you thought about this or that or whatever? And I'm just like, no, they're going to work right through that. And I'm here. And I'm just
it's
here.
growth. It's growth for you.
Huge. And I see that, in so many people where they jump in and have an answer, and they jump in and say something, or they, or they have to hug because it's their own discomfort to make them feel comfortable.
That's right.
And also have some sense of connection too, and maybe that's what they're looking for. But I don't know. I just kind of like, it's the stillness. Like I feel really still right now, even when in all the excitement.
Of course.
I'm so excited.
Because but you are taking it all in too. It's a way of really be still and know. Yeah. Be still and know that is yours. Yeah. That is what God is giving to you and your family. And that is, you get to soak it up in that moment. Yeah. And it's so amazing.
What's it on this page that we just skipped over? Maybe it's on the next one. Okay.
Well, if you could speak to another woman in the midst of a big life transition, saying goodbye to a parent, becoming an empty nester, or becoming, or welcoming a new grandbaby, what words of soulful courage and radiance would you give them?
That was a good question.
Yeah.
You got some good questions. Okay, so going back to my notes because I get carried away. So, I would encourage them to switch from the competition of the ego to the compassion of the spirit. And so I think when we start to want to like fix everybody's hurt, which I learned through the loss of Sharon, like I was trying to absorb everybody's pain, it about put me under the bus, like literally. And you saw it. And I'll never forget my sister Kim coming in and going, "Oh my God, what happened to you?" And, because I was like, okay, I just spent the last 8 days,
taking on everybody else's emotions and everybody else's,
and trying to fix it at the same time when I couldn't, and I knew what was happening. Right. But because she was having those reawakenings of being on hospice, coming home and being out and then waking up and, and just really looking normal for a couple of days, that, and that was my first experience for an 8-day death, basically, that I had to really, really lean into God's spirit and to get me through that. And there was moments where I lost it, but learning through that, I think looking back and understanding now everybody else is going through pain. And so I couldn't fix it.
And our pain is different from other people's pain. We are all individuals and that's how God made us to be. So my pain is not going to be the exact same pain as you. We might feel that.
But again, it's their connection too. It is where their growth is or isn't my responsibility. And so with the first death, it was, I felt my responsibility to fix everybody's pain. And I learned I couldn't do that. So in that, I learned some big courage moments where I had to ask for help. I had to have hospice come in and educate, where I was like, I don't need to be the one to tell them this,
That's right.
And so then that helps prepare us, within a year later, then we lose Duke. And very painful, and watching him struggle, that was very difficult. But gaining knowledge of how just the medical system works through the dying process. So learning that at a deeper level again, and understanding, and then feeling a little bit more confident in setting boundaries with family on the expectations, and then not taking on that, and setting my boundary, and standing up when I needed to, but gently. Absolutely. And just trying to stay ahead of the problems I had going with the loss of Sharon, but staying ahead of it, and preparing people, right? That's expectations, because the first one I didn't know,
but with that awareness and the things that you through all of that, you brought that with you to every single moment after that. And that's powerful.
It is powerful. And I think if you only go through one or two, fortunately, that's all you have to go through. But I went through 4 in less than 2.5 years that were all, 3 of them were heavily medical. My mom graciously died in my home, but still she had pneumonia and a couple of hospitalizations there at the end. But I think in regards to your question, so I can try to stay on track, but that through that, I discovered that I wasn't broken. I was breaking through, and that through cracking and letting myself break is where the shine got brighter, because I was able to then pick myself up, dust myself off, and regroup quick. And it had to happen like every day.
Yes, it did.
Multiple times a day sometimes. I had to break, get back up, break, get back up. Holy crap. Again,
like that would be a whole other episode too. How does that happen? How do you do that, right?
Yeah. So I would tell them to remember who you are, and believe in your own truth, but you also have to reflect that you're not always right. And I had to learn that too, that I wasn't always right on the delivery of how I delivered information, or not, whether I withheld based on being hurt. I had to learn that, and understand that everything will be okay. You just trust the process, and that fixing it, you have to allow things to just unravel. Right. So releasing allows for increased flow of energy. So once I was able to feel that, understand it, and recognize it, then I could reset faster. Right. And I could allow some rest time, and take rest times when I needed them, even if they were brief. I mean, they were brief. And then this is what I wrote. This would probably be the big takeaway, is to live like nature.
Wow.
And so to me, that means
live like nature.
So let the energy flow, and then you float, and then you flourish, and you receive favor. So those are my 4 F's. So, but to me, when I watch nature, just sitting up north or wherever it might be, or just in my backyard sitting on overlooking the deck, is, the wind just blows. And you got to let the tree bend. And sometimes it snaps. Like the ice, snaps the tree. And it's okay, because then it's rebirthing a whole new forest, right? Up in the UP and stuff. So that's kind of my takeaway, is through all of that, is to live through it like nature, and let life do what it's supposed to do. And it's really cool.
That is so cool.
It's precious. It is precious. And it gave me the grounding that I needed to rest.
Yeah.
And then
because there's a wonderful book out there. I want to say it's Winterizing Winter.
Yeah.
I read that this past winter. But it's true. It is all about rest.
Yeah.
And it did, there's different seasons for
like the
nature is.
hibernates.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So doing that. So I think living like nature and just, you're going to be okay. And
That's
then
right.
remember who you are. Like, you're going to,
All very important. Very important. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we are to our Radiant 5.
Okay.
Okay, the lightning round. Here we go. And we're wrapping up. No, it won't be, but that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. So whatever just bubbles up, just things, right? Okay. One daily habit you swear by for feeling your radiant self.
Gratitude.
Gratitude. A book, podcast, or resource that has deeply impacted you.
Okay, I'm going to get one for each.
Okay.
So,
I love that.
So for podcasts, the life shift for me was Mel Robbins.
Yes.
Back in 2021 and doing all of that. So she helped me just kind of get a rhythm back, right? So that was a reset for me. I also love me and I love you. And then, yeah, so a resource,
yes,
for me was the dream certification. So my learning on intention. So learn about intention. So wherever you can, and not doing, intention of being.
Right.
And then the book, that was probably the most recent. There's many, many books out there, but the impactful one was Andrea Quinn in the 9 Quintessentials when she wrote in chapter 2 about I am statements. And it was about the essence of soul. Yes. I ams versus, I am courageous or I am this, but it's more like I am courage. I am truth. I am heart. I am hope. Yeah. I am.
But all it was a little flip.
A flip. Because it's who I am. So it's not like I'm trying to convince myself. No, I am these things. So, back in my sales days or whatever, I am statements was where I first learned about affirmations. But I never believed them. I know this is supposed to be a rap thing, but we could do a whole segment on that. Because I am, from a soulful level, is who are you? Like, I am light and energy. I am courage. I am hope. I am truth. And I'm heart. Like, that's me. Like, that's who I am. And I don't waver from that. So everything that I do, it's off of that. Stems from that. And so in reading that book 2 summers ago, prepared me for Sharon. Because it was that summer. It was 2022 when I read that book. And that grounded me enough to really carry over. I was already living in intention, but that really gave me the I am statements that I needed to wake up to every day. So I think those are some things too, is like in developing from there. And that just kind of.
So that's the 9 Quintessentials from Andrea Quinn. Okay, so what's your go-to mantra or affirmation?
Okay, so your go-to mantra. Every year I have a word of the year.
Yes, you do.
Right? So this year was favor. And I am receiving favor all over the place. So I've learned to pick a word that you be ready for. Grace. I had to learn grace.
It was in your face.
Where there was unsettled grace. Like I really needed grace to work through these things.
So that was for you, but you also had to give it.
Yes. Yes. And not only receive it, but to give that. Yes. And then my mantra for 2025 is receive and begin again. So every year I pick something that I go back to. I always like be still and know that I am. It's always, a Bible verse that I go to, but for my mantra for 2025 is receive and begin again, because every day you have to begin again. But when receiving God's love and his faithfulness and gratitude and being gracious for everything that I'm being given right now, it's like, holy crap. So somebody said to me the other day, you lost 2 parents and now you have 2 grandchildren. Like, I've really lost 4 parents, but recent 2 out and 2 were given.
An amazing connection.
Isn't that? And the day after
that
my mom passed, I find out Brett's pregnant with Amanda. And it was just like, oh my gosh, and I hadn't really even picked the word to recognize favor yet. So,
All right. One thing that you wish more women knew about their overall wellness and glow.
That they're worth the time.
They're worth the energy to put into that self-love and that self-care. Yeah. They're worth it.
Yes. And I said,
you are worth it.
Change. I don't have time to, I'm giving service to myself. I'm going to serve me today. This is how I'm going to serve myself. And I think within that, can I just share a couple of things? So from here is where I came up with, within that health realm, there's an inner connection that you have to work on for radiance. And then there's an outer. And I think people confuse radiance with an outward appearance. The best hair, the best outfit.
Right. And I've talked about that a lot. It's not that.
It's not.
Self-love is not.
No, it's not. And so for me, for my inner radiance comes from happiness and joy and creating that for myself. And it looks different every day, right?
It looks different for every person.
Yes.
But I love that you just recognize, or you shared that because you recognize that it does look different every day for you. It is. It's crazy. That's so important to know that it might not be the same Monday as it was on Friday.
Like if I'm feeling like frustrated, well, why? Like, what could I be happy about, right? Being like having courage and self-acceptance, being authentic, and wearing the belt, and wearing my hair up or whatever, or having short nails.
Whatever it is.
That's who I am, right? Wearing all my jewelry and watches. I mean, this is me. Like, I'm layered up. But it makes me, it's who I am. It's how I express myself, right? Through layers of love.
And you accept that.
Yeah.
No matter what anybody else says.
I know. Like, if I could be my bathing suit and I'm all decked up. Like, I'm just like, I have it all on. It just makes me feel good. So, but it's the inner. So, being authentic to who you are, gratitude, purpose, finding purpose and meaning for me, emotional well-being, intention and integrity, doing breath work has been very life-changing and calming for me. And then outer, making healthy choices 80% of the time. 20% of the time, I'm going to have my little fun stuff or whatever. Like if
I love the 80-20 anyway.
And I don't even call it messing up. It's just like I'm giving myself permission to have cake or the donut and half the time I don't even want it anymore, but it's okay if I do. And it's just 80% of the time, 70 to 80, I'm going to do the right thing, make good choices. I'm going to stop obsessing over that, be more in the flow, right? So that outward energy of flow.
Yes.
Working towards kindness and compassion, connection, positive mindset, my word choices, reflection. Reflection of your light, your radiance is a direct reflection of overall perception, mindset, and word choices for me. And then the story I tell. The story I tell had to change. Okay. What else? Okay. There's more.
Okay. Where am I? Okay. In one sentence, what does it mean to live radiantly? It's a tough one to have it go into one sentence.
Yeah, it was, and it's kind of choppy, but I wrote, so being connected to your authentic and spiritual soul and aligning that with Christ and his calling for you.
That is absolutely beautiful.
And all of that, for me, resulted in joy and peace, favor, and love. So connection to my authentic and spiritual soul self, and aligning that, I think, with courage. I would add that in there. To live radiantly, always in courage. Because without courage, like, you shrink and your light won't shine. And so if you're shrinking and dimming your light because of fear, that's different than a purposeful dim and stepping back and taking time for yourself. So if you're dimming your light because of shaming or guilt or people pleasing, being an enabler, you're really not doing yourself a service or favor to yourself. But the moment you start to step up and set that boundary for you, and then giving a consequence back, and sometimes it's leaving a situation. So for me, 30 years ago, my light was dimmed.
That's right.
Not on purpose, but because I was shamed.
It was, yes.
I felt shame because, I was losing the battle. And I didn't know how to fix it. Yeah. So that outer shell couldn't let my inner light shine, right? So if you define, so I would suggest as your little activity to do would be to write down what do you feel is your inner radiance? What makes you shine on the inside, and then also on the outside, what's important to you?
Yeah. So that's your challenge this week is to really evaluate what helped you to shine from the inside out, and then look at what is outside that you can really focus on to help with that radiance.
One of the things that I'm doing, and it's not every day, it's probably 2 to 3 times a week, when I'm really feeling like tension in my body, is doing those somatic yoga stretches. And it's only like anywhere from 8 to 15 minutes. So it's very quick. Yoga is great, but this is specific to releasing different parts and for me, I hold tension in my pelvis and my gut. And I do in my throat, my neck, and like around my neck and shoulders, but I truly hold pain and hurt probably in that area and in my sacrum.
Yeah.
And so once I started to recognize my body and what it needs, then you can fix it.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to just do what everybody else is doing because they're running, I can even say I'm not a runner. I don't like to run.
I don't either.
I don't like to run.
I did it once.
I think I would love to run, but I have a hard time because I count. And even walking, if I don't have music, I'm counting. I used to teach aerobics for everything's 8 count. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1. I'm like, who wants to count 8, 500 times?
Right.
No,
right. Okay.
And it hurts.
So to finish up, we have a bonus question. Okay. Thank you for that. What's your guilty pleasure that you have absolutely no intention of giving up?
The one thing is for summer is my iced coffee with chocolate syrup and whipping cream, which is what I had in here, but I had coffee. I didn't do ice. I just did. So my guilty pleasure is my coffee, whether it's cold or hot, and I put whipping cream on it. I don't cheat myself on my coffee.
I'm noticing that I'm doing that too. So I'm glad to hear that I'm not having my coffee. I'm going to put what I want on there.
Almond milk does not work for me. So
whipping cream, thank you.
I like almond milk and protein drinks. And here's another thing.
Coconut milk is protein drink.
I'm releasing all of this bullshit about all these supplements and stuff. So I really got it narrowed down to just a few things. And I feel better.
Good.
Yeah. And then,
and again, that's got to be an individual thing.
Yeah.
I have a few trial and error, but it's also that whole N1, N equals 1. Yeah. And that is the idea that every single one of us are individuals, and that's intentional. That's what God wanted us. It was to be. So what might work for you doesn't work for me. Or what works for me might not work for you, or whatever. And that is so. That's also the same with therapy. That's also the same with any kind of functional med, in my opinion. Any kind of somatic even work. When I work with clients and doing somatic work, it's not. What might work for somebody is not absolutely going to work for the other person. So it's really very fascinating. It is very fascinating. So it is. I love it.
Yeah. And I think also is really just taking care of yourself.
Yep.
But for me,
that's just
that's a hormone replacement. Just going and getting your testing done, whatever you need to do. That's a whole nother scenario. But
so you're not going to give up that coffee?
I am not.
All right.
I am not.
All right.
Only if I was pregnant. I'm not going to be again. I was not. But because I didn't like the smell of it when I was pregnant.
Oh, really? Yeah. I think there's only one time in my life where I didn't have coffee, and it was because we were trying to figure out, was I having panic attacks? Was it something to do with my heart? Was it something? And my doctor said, really stay away from caffeine for a bit, and let's figure this out. Yeah. That was not fun.
No. So that's
fun.
And you feel guilty about it.
No guilt. Oh my gosh, Sally, thank you so much. Your heart, your walk through loss and love, and I'm going to read this because I don't want to miss any of these words. Your ability to remain present and full of light, even while holding grief. It's what makes you the very embodiment of radiant courage.
Oh.
And you've shown us that radiance is not about perfection or performance. It's about presence. It's about continuing to show up with softness and strength in equal measure, even as life rearranges us. And that's what happens. Life rearranges us. To everyone listening, if you have been moving through a season of goodbye, of uncertainty, of unexpected beauty or heartbreak, may this conversation remind you that your light is not lost. You are radiant, even in the shadow, especially in the shadow. If this episode spoke to your heart, please share it with a friend and be sure to connect with Sally through her Soulful Courage community on Facebook. And also check out my community, the Radiant You, on Facebook. They both are safe, sacred space for women walking through the many layers of life. Thank you for being here with us today. We are so excited that you joined us. Until next time, keep honoring your story, and keep finding the courage to shine. Shine your light and be the radiant you.